Number one, the first thing we have to know is read the instruction of the paper. You need to read the instruction. You understand what does the instruction say? Because on the first page of the paper, there are instruction. That's very important. There is no way you are going to understand what the paper is about without reading the instruction. Make sure you read the instruction from the beginning. Read the first instruction up the last instruction. Number two, our handwriting. How do we write? Some people have failed because of poor handwriting. And when you write poorly, automatically you lose marks in English. Handwriting involves punctuation of your work. How do you punctuate your work? You need to punctuate your work very, very well by putting there the capital letters, the exclamation mark, the question mark, the full stop, which are very important. Some people, they ignore them. They take them to be minor. But in actual sense, if you don't put them, you lose a mark. Next, you must be well set. How are you supposed to be well set? Not only the children, not only the candidate, but even the teacher yourself. What do you have to, if you are to be well set, what do I mean? You must know, what am I supposed to learn? What am I supposed to read? Basing on the curriculum, the topics we have. Because some people have ignored the curriculum. They ignored some of the concepts or the competence of the curriculum. But make sure you follow the curriculum and you know the right competence you are supposed to give to these learners, or the learners are supposed to learn. Yes, without wasting time, I've talked about section A. The paper comprises of two sections. Two sections. That is A and B. What is in A? The first thing in A, emphasize the word building. In the word building is where you talk about the parts of speech. Most of us, the teachers, have forgotten the parts of speech. They teach children to cram, not to understand. Remember, you must teach your children the parts of speech, and they know which part of speech is this. If I'm given a word, which part of speech does this word belong? Such that they are able to defend or to answer these questions exhaustively. Now we are going to look at the paper. Here we have said we have two sections. Section A has subsection 1 and 2. There are 20 questions. There are 30 questions in subsection 1. From number 1 up number 30. Then after that, that's where we basically look at the prepositions. Actually, the parts of speech, we look at the parts of speech from there. That's where you emphasize the adjectives, the nouns, the pronouns, the conjunctions, all right? The adverbs and the others. Remember the 80 parts of speech. Then we have the subsection 2, where we have the structures. What are these structures? Have you taken time to think about these structures which are asked right away from P1? Because some teachers ignore the P1 structure. They will ask a child, and the child has totally forgotten about this P1 structure. This is, they want you to write a plural. The child has totally forgotten, how do I change this to its plural form? And the child fails to write that because you are used to P7, P6, P5 structure. So members, in that subsection 2 of the paper, there are 20 questions and they carry 20 marks. So when any mark you lose, that's a grade. Yes, I've talked about the sections. Now let us look at what is tested, the filling in the gaps. Filling in the gaps, there we need to teach our children the articles. These articles are supposed to be taught by children. They know which article are we supposed to use. In the case, are we using article a, article an, article the? Because those are one of the basics a child should know. For example, you are given a statement that says, Musa is dash member of parliament. I'm assuming Musa is dash member of parliament. for Buenge constituency. Now, which article are we supposed to apply in there? Are we applying in the article a or article the? So we are going to see that as we proceed. So under the filling in the gaps, let us look at the guiding words should be there. Teach the children to identify the guiding word. If they ask, there is always a guiding word on the side of the question. For example, they say, we have an issue with this word. Now look here, we have such a statement. This statement is so challenging, not only to learners, but even some teachers. The pronunciation of this word, the word you, some teachers pronounce it as iwi, which is not correct. And this one is very common in our papers that we always do. So please let us mind about the sounds when we are teaching our learners, the sounds of word, because the sounds determines the answer one is to give or to write in a paper, the sound. So now, for example, if this question came, I believe there are some people who can stagger. You'll find some, not only pupils, but the teachers also will stagger. This is you. So if it is you, it takes article Members who are listening to me, I believe this is not new. You will bear witness with me. It's something which is very tricky. Then we have some other structures which are broken. And from number 1 to 5, they break some structures. For example, they will need you to write the word neither, but they've given you a guiding word in the middle of the sentence, which is nor. So teach your children. Let the children know, be able to identify the guiding words in a sentence. The next part after the filling in, we have the word building. When I was just introducing, I talked about the parts of speech. That's where we get the word building. We talk about the nouns. Nouns are very important because nouns are categorized in different forms. The proper nouns. Have you thought of proper nouns? They will ask you to write something like Mukono district, Mbarara district, Wakiso district. Have you ever tried to think about that? That they capitalize the initial letters, Mukono, capital M, then district, capital D. Have you ever thought about Mulago Hospital, where they want you to write the capital M and the capital H under word building? And which kind of noun is that? Have you emphasized about abstract nouns? Have you emphasized about collective nouns? Have you emphasized about possessive nouns? Have you emphasized about possessive nouns? Because very many teachers forget to talk about those kind of nouns. The proper nouns, the common nouns, the collective nouns, the abstract nouns, which are commonly asked. Some of these children, they got the paper, but they cannot tell you that this is an abstract noun, this is a collective noun, all right? So we have to emphasize to our children these nouns under the word building. Then we have to talk about other parts of speech, the adverbs. Adverbs are very, very common. We have irregular adverbs. There are some adverbs which change, but we don't add ly like these other normal adverbs. For example, they will talk about an adverb like fast. Fast is an adverb. It's a common one. We have the word well as an adverb. Have you ever thought about that? When you are teaching your children, you look at the categories of adverbs. Adverbs of time, adverbs of place, adverbs of frequency, adverbs of manner. Have you, as a teacher, do you analyze your class and talk about some of the examinable questions? Some of the examinable questions. And master the parts of speech. My concern is about the parts of speech. Have you ever talked about the plural forms? Plural forms. There are those words which don't change. Fish, furniture, luggage. They don't add any letter, but they are commonly asked. And when they're asking, because when you talk about P5, traveling, they will talk about luggage. Have you emphasized about luggage? Okay? Look at topics. Don't skip topics. Don't assume that this topic may not be asked under word building. Under word building or word formation. We need that. We need to know about that. We can also talk about short forms, which are commonly known as abbreviations. Short forms, which are commonly known as abbreviations. Abbreviations. Sometimes we have a challenge when it comes to abbreviations. There are those abbreviations which are recognized internationally. And there are some abbreviations which are used or formed locally. Some people can form an abbreviation, which is not standard. It's not standard, it's not in the dictionary, but someone asks you about an abbreviation. You ask yourself, where has this one come from? Then we have an issue. People confuse contractions with abbreviations. Contractions, they are not abbreviations. They are just short forms of words. Words are shortened. Words are shortened. Like, for example, we have a contraction, the word cannot. It can be, we can form, can't. So this is not an abbreviation. This is a contraction. So sometimes when teachers explain there, they tell children, let us look at this abbreviation. This is not an abbreviation. We have this simple contraction, I would, or I had. I had. And that is like that. It's not an abbreviation. It's a contraction. So let us differentiate between abbreviations and contraction. As you teach the learners, let them know that this is an abbreviation, this is a contraction. We can still move on the abbreviation. There are those abbreviations where we write by putting their dots. For example, we have AM. AM as an abbreviation. So this AM as an abbreviation, there are two dots. People have been arguing about that. Even if you check in your dictionary, you will find that A dot M dot. So please let us master, let us know what are we supposed to do when it comes to answering question. Now we are going to begin to look at plural forms. Plural forms. I believe last year they brought for us the word chimney. It was a bit tricky. Chimney was a bit tricky. Remember, when we are explaining to our learners, we always tell them that when they bring a word, for example, a noun, that ends in Y, the letter before Y determines the answer you are to give. If it's a consonant, I repeat, if it's a consonant, Y goes to I, then we add ES. If it's a vowel meaning the A, the E, the Y, the O, and the A. If it's a vowel before Y, then we add letter S. For example, I'll talk about the word key. It's a very simple one. So this is key. It ends in Y, but before Y there is letter E. So this E, which is a vowel, determines which answer a child is supposed to write. So this one automatically becomes his because of the E. Alright? Now when they give you the word monkey, let me say boy, because it is a very short one. Boy, it has a vowel before Y. So that one automatically, we add letter S and it becomes boys. Very simple. Sometimes we don't take this serious and we don't explain to our learners that before Y, if the letter is a consonant, it determines the answer you are supposed to give. If it's a vowel, then, for example, if it's a consonant, I'm going to use the short examples. Baby, this is a consonant. Letter B. Letter B is a consonant. So it affects this Y, and Y becomes I, and we add letter E, S, and it becomes babies. Ladies and gentlemen, now when you look at these examples, you can be able to differentiate that now when I'm talking about plural form, then there are other plural forms. Like when we talk about very common one is radius. Radius. The word is radius. Radius has U and S. Radius. It has U and S. Now we consider this U and S when we are giving the plural form. It is an irregular plural. So it becomes radii. US changes to I. US changes to I. Ladies and gentlemen, there are many plural forms, but I cannot explain all of them. I can't exhaust all of them because the paper is large. So we need to move. As long as we have a tip about a concept, then we move on. All right? Yes, then we can also talk about, they talked about reflexive pronouns. A pronoun is a short word that replaces a noun. I'm going to briefly talk about a pronoun or pronouns. So pronouns have got categories. We have categories, but during the paper, they wanted us to write a reflexive pronoun. We have subject pronouns, subject. I believe when I talk about subject, in other book they say subjective. Subject pronouns, these are pronouns that we use when we are starting a sentence. For example, he, she, you, it, they are subject pronouns. Now, these subject pronouns, they start a sentence. Then we have object pronouns. Have you taken time to look at those kind of pronouns? Object pronoun, subject pronouns, possessive pronoun, reflexive pronoun. Yes? Especially when it comes to reflexive, children write them and separate them. Somebody writes from the word oneself. I'm beginning with this one because it's a very unique one. One is a subject pronoun. Oneness is a possessive pronoun with an apostrophe. Oneness. Then we have oneself as a reflexive pronoun. Oneself. Whenever you space this, we give you a zero. We give you a wrong. It will be very wrong because reflexive pronouns, they must be written as one word. Reflexive pronoun, we are not separating them. We put them together. We write them together. So when you separate them, automatically you lose a mark because it is written as one word. So here in our paper, they wanted us to change myself to ourselves. Myself is one, singular. Ourselves is many, plural. And they must be written, I repeat, as one word. Then possessive pronoun, then before I leave there, let us remind us about this. It's and it is. There is a problem here. Let us emphasize this to our learners, such that they know, is this a pronoun? Is this a pronoun? This is a pronoun. It's a possessive pronoun. Possessive. It's a possessive pronoun. So this possessive pronoun shows ownership. Like you are talking about a puppy, a beach and its. I'm meaning this. A beach and its puppies. A beach meaning a female dog. Now, this is a contraction. It's not a pronoun, it's a contraction. I told you when I was explaining, I said a contraction is a short form of a word. This is a short form of it is. So, we are moving on. Plural forms, I talked about plural form. In the PLE paper, they talked, 2012, they wrote the plural form of the word wolf. So wolf changes to wolves because F changes to V. Except there are those tricky ones like the hoof. When somebody talks about hoof, hoof can become hoofs or can become hooves. It has two plural forms. So be careful as you emphasize the plural form. There are those unique ones which we must be very, very careful when we're explaining them. We call them exceptional. I remember one time, one year they wrote about this, like passerby, and they wanted learners to talk about this, to give the plural form. I take you back to the nouns. This is a compounding noun. And remember when we are writing compounding nouns, the rule says when there are two words, the second word or the last word takes the plural. But this is an exceptional. You must train the learners to know that this is an exceptional. When you are giving the plural form of pass by, it becomes passers by. Passers by. Are we together, members? Yes. Let us look at these other plural forms. Since we have talked about plural form, we can proceed. There's also the word tooth. Tooth, those kind of plural form where they want the vowel letters to change only vowel letters. Tooth, foot, okay? Tooth changes to teeth. Then foot changes to feet. Am I clear? Yes. Compound nouns. Members, don't forget to talk about compound nouns. Compound nouns, we have the one with the 2, we have the one with the 3. So the one with the 2, the law says the last word takes the plural. The one with the 3, the first word takes the plural. Exception is the passer by, where the first word takes the plural. Am I clear? Yes. Uncountable nouns. Uncountable nouns. I told you when I was starting about nouns. There are different types of nouns. The proper nouns, the common nouns. Common nouns are divided under the countable and the uncountable. We have the compounded nouns, the abstract noun, the possessive noun, yes, and many others, and the collective nouns. Yes, now these nouns here, look at these nouns which are not commonly, because in the curriculum they are there, they call them hidden competence. You may not identify them if you have not analyzed very well the curriculum. Look at the curriculum column by column, such that you identify those hidden competence about nouns. Yes, because of time we have to move on. Then we have tomato, a word tomato, which goes to tomatoes by adding letter E and S. Tomatoes. We have radio. Radio, we add letter S, my friends. Are we together? Yes. Then we are moving on. We have talked about possessive nouns. Here, possessive nouns. How do we write possessive nouns? Teachers, for example, they ask you to talk about teacher's chair. Teachers. This is one teacher and his chair. Teacher's chair. One teacher and one chair. One teacher, one chair. Alright? Now when you see this apostrophe going out, for example, they ask you to give the plural form. Teachers. Apostrophe goes out. And chairs. and chairs. So this is a possessive plural. This is a possessive singular, but possessive. One teacher. Another common question they ask is ladies. Ladies bag. Ladies bag. Okay? Ladies bag. Ladies bag. Now, when this is ladies, be very mindful about this. If the first noun is affected, even the second noun is also affected. So be very, very careful as you write the plural form. So it becomes ladies, okay, then bags. So this is the right thing. Emphasize and make a practice. Let's be a daily practice. It must be daily. Children should practice that, such that they are confident, they are aware of what they are supposed to write in the paper. Possessive plurals are not very, very easy. They need continuous practice. You need to practice daily. Practice daily on these possessive plurals. Time is not on our side. That's why we are moving a bit fast. But we can also, we can bring in your concern so that we can supplement. Then let me talk about homophones. We have homophones and homographs. Homophones and homographs. What are these homophones, friends? Homophones simply are words with the same sound, different spelling, and a different meaning. Homophones. We have meat, and meat as a homophone. Meat and meat. So this is a homophone. They sound the same, but they have different meaning and different spelling. But their sound is the same. Yes. Now when you are writing this, when children are writing this, let us understand, teach the children to understand the qualifier. Because if a sentence has no qualifier, then there is no mark that will be awarded to such a child, such a candidate. Because we look at the qualifier. In your sentence, have you put a qualifier? Is a qualifier in your sentence? Or you have just written for the sake? Without a qualifier, no mark is awarded. What am I trying to mean? My father bought meat from the butcher. Yesterday. My father bought meat from the butcher yesterday. So what is the qualifier in that sentence? If you are talking about meat, we need to hear the word butcher. Because butcher, we always get meat from the butcher. There is no way you are going to tell me about meat without the butcher. Butcher would be a qualifier in that sentence. Then we have this meat. I need to hear about a place. Okay? Sarah will meet the Reverend at the church. Full stop. So what is the qualifier here? The place, the church. The church shows you what action is going to take place, because we can meet at the market, in the market, at the hospital, all right? So talk about, if you are talking about meeting, talk about at school, the qualifier must be there. Without the qualifier, my dear, your answer will be wrong. And with English, we mean what we talk about. Qualifiers are very, very necessary. So as you are training our candidates, let them be aware of these things, that they are very important. I talked about punctuation. How do we punctuate our work? How do we punctuate our work? I've talked about, let them show the difference in these homophones. Then I talked about homographs. Homographs, they are words with the same sound, same spelling, but different meaning. Homographs. Like, for example, we have the word will and will. These are homographs. Will and will. So, we can talk about this will and we talk about this will. This will here can simply talk about a modal verb. Modal verbs, when you're talking about the future simple tense. I will visit the doctor on Monday. I will visit the doctor on Monday. You are referring to the future simple tense of the action that you will do within the nearest future. I will visit the doctor on Monday. So the word will and Monday reflects what you're talking about. Then this other will here, under the homographs, you may be referring to a document that someone writes to prove someone's ownership. If you have your children and you find that your age is going down, your age is slowing, so you have no energy, you can make a will to the family and say, members, before I go, I pass on, this is someone is going to be in charge of my family property. You understand? So you make or you write a will. So these words, they sound the same, they have the same spelling, but they have different meaning. Yes, we move on. We have talked about homophone. I talked about qualifiers. I talked about the subject of the sentence under homophones. So you must be very, very aware. So ladies and gentlemen, please, as we train our children for the PLE, because our target is PLE, let us try to emphasize the key points of the qualifier, of the subject, and the others. All right? Yes. We can also talk about some other words. There are many homophones, but we can't exhaust them because of time. We cannot exhaust all the homophones. But I have emphasized two things: the qualifier and the subject. Yes. Under word building, there is where we have formation of sentences. How do we form the sentences? We are given words and we are asked to arrange them to form meaningful sentences. The first thing you should train these children is to first know how many words have been given. How many words have been given? Because there is a tendency for the experience in teaching, children are given a sentence. They leave out. They can't just leave out either a full stop, an exclamation mark, or a question mark. So what do we have to do? Let them get a pencil, they number word by word. Even a full stop should be numbered. For example, when you are given a sentence, let them first number before they read. Let them number the words. Then after numbering the words, let them now identify the subject of the sentence. Because remember, the parts of the sentence, we have the subject, we have the object, and we have the phrase. So let them identify what is the subject. Always in exam, they give the subject with a capital letter. They will show you to differentiate the capital letter, or whether it's in the middle or at the end, but it begins with a capital letter as a guiding word. And let them know that if it's a question, automatically there must be a question mark at the end. Now, if you see a question mark in the end, let them be aware that that is a question. If they see an exclamation mark, then they should know that that is an exclamating statement, exclamatory statement. Should we proceed? Yes. So let them count the words. Let them identify the full stop or the other punctuation marks. Let them identify the commas where necessary. All together? So, we are about to conclude. we are summarizing. Yes, the number of words I've talked about that, number of words, subject of the question of the sentence, punctuation marks. Thank you so much. Yes, last one. The opposite, I talked about opposites. I talked about adjectives and the parts of speech. I talked about adverbs. I talked about the nouns and the prepositions. So, let our children know those parts of speech. Before anything, don't wait for the last time. Let us build this confidence in these children as early as possible. As early as possible. Thank you so much for being part of the lesson. May God bless you. I wish to hear from you. I need your concern such that we can share. This is learning does not end. No man is an island. I believe to hear from you. I mean, Teacher David is my name. We shall continue from there. Thank you so much.